Greetings adventurers and welcome to Goblin Marketplace. It's been a while since I dove into the Discord and covered a story by people on the channel, so today's will be by Brewis Ginley by the name of Jealous DM Changes My Character's Subclass. Let's jump right into it. Several years ago I joined a D&D campaign, got in because my dad played D&D with one of the other players' parents. This game was the first game I'd been in that wasn't run by my father. I joined the campaign midway, like level 4, and with the first session taking place on my birthday, but was much too nervous to tell anyone as this was the first time I'd ever spoken to these 5 new people, aside from messaging DM about character and backstory. Anyways, the DM spent a lot of time and effort in developing their world, but most of it was plot stuff that I wasn't privy to, with no effort to explain any of this to me. At this point, the Dungeon Master just not great at new player onboarding, not an actual problem. The Discord server this took place in contained 30-something people, as there was a multitude of campaigns run by DM and DM only. Regularly, there would be game nights and such, which is where the first issue showed up. DM would be extremely possessive of just about everything they could. At one point, the DM declared that the idea of a Minecraft server was their intellectual property and banned a server member that offered to pay the subscription for a dedicated server. A couple months later, I ended up in a long-distance relationship with another person in that server. Yikes, I think I already know where the problem is in this story. Apparently he considers a lot of things in this Discord as property would be my guess. DM would get very upset whenever we would flirt in the server, which I get, so my then partner and I made it an effort to move that type of stuff to a more private space. By now, all the players are kinda sick of DM, who would run the game as though it were a book. At no point did it actually feel like we had a choice to do anything. There were 3 different types of scene that occurred in the session. 1. An epic description of an ancient being or cool location that would often weirdly include a vivid description of scantily clad elves. 2 would be combat, and then 3 would be travel. I was unaware that the other players felt similarly, and because I was new, like 3 months at this point, I didn't think I had the right to judge if that's what people like. My character for this game was a painfully edgy Pack of the Blade warlock Goliath, who will from this point be referred to as Blue. Hey man, everyone plays an edgelord here and there, it's not a big deal. At this time, I knew all the 5e rules better than the back of my hand, and my character in a way that I thought would be fun. Not a fan of 5e combat, so I was more RP focused. That said, I did put a little bit of effort into making a slight viable build, and got full approval from the DM who said they liked my backstory. That said, after I got into a romantic relationship described in part 1, DM started to ignore Blue more and more. The DM would often forget Blue in the initiative order, or use surprise rounds that would only affect Blue. I sucked it up for a week or 2 because my then partner had told me that DM had asked them out and got rejected. So I thought they were being a little immature but would calm down soon. I was very wrong. 2 sessions later, we have a big boss fight that was directly related to Blue. I was told before the session that DM was going to have a lot of story stuff happening for Blue once we beat this boss. The boss fight starts and we get our ass kicked so incredibly hard. Blue and 2 other people got downed in 1 turn, that's literally half the party. It was now obvious that we were not supposed to win the fight, like at the start of a Souls game. Then the boss picks up my pack sword. I was initially confused by this, as Blue would just reform it in their hand when they woke up. Only when Blue finally did wake up, I was informed by my DM that Blue had lost their subclass and was benevolently granted a new subclass, the Celestial. All of Blue's spells were changed by the DM and Blue would no longer wear their medium armor, because the proficiency was granted by the old subclass, and was unable to buy any gear including a weapon because the boss's henchmen looted us. From this point on, Blue's only combat ability was Poison Spray and the boss was never mentioned by the DM again. Seems like a reasonable course of action to me. Nothing like forcing a reroll of a character, taking all their gear, and all done in an unwinnable cutscene. We love that. With this subclass change at no point being discussed, I was not pleased and attempted to speak to the DM about it and what I could do to have a reasonable discussion, particularly involving my continued involvement in the campaign. I was assured that the DM wasn't angry at me and had big things planned, so I decided to give it another handful of sessions. The big things that occurred in the next 5 sessions were as follows. The party got an airship. The party went to speak to an ancient god that they'd met before Blue joined and was surrounded by literally naked elf women. The party got sent to a dinosaur-filled crater. The party fought a dragon. The party fought a lizard man tribe. All very relevant to his character, I'm sure, lore-wise. Much to my surprise, none of these included any mention of the subclass change, which I and the rest of the party thought would be the obvious next plot point as it directly related to the undefeated boss. In a move that I'm not exactly proud of, though justified at the time as being in character, I had Blue increasingly act out against obvious story beats and eventually just retired Blue, as it seemed that there was no intention to actually resolve the subclass issue. The character that I brought in was an incredibly naive torturer whose forcefully adopting family ran a secluded city. Despite not being particularly creative, it was the kind of character I hadn't played before and really looked forward to playing. Would love to bring him back in a game someday. The character introduction was a little more than a few lines, with the contents being, you see a strange man wandering out of the club, having been swindled of all their money. I corrected the DM as it seemed they'd forgotten that my character did not gamble. They changed the line to, having spent all their money on prostitutes. I again corrected them as I definitely didn't feel comfortable with my underage character doing that. Finally, they changed to, spent it all drinking. I just let them go with the drinking intro despite my character abstaining from alcohol because I didn't want to hold up the game more than I already was. Every interaction that involved my new character resulted in them being berated despite solving an entirely out of the blue murder mystery instantly, and my character had like a +13 to insight and investigation. Out of game, my then partner told me that they were feeling uncomfortable due to the DM's constant messaging and attempting flirting despite being told that they weren't interested. My then partner created a new server for non-TTRPG purposes, right before the DM went nuts. DM started accusing players of ruining his story in game. They were furious about people talking about him behind his back. To be fair, we did a running joke about his elf fetish. They banned 3 people, not people who they were actually accusing, just people that took their side after hearing about what happened. Before the end of the week, the Discord server was deleted. I obviously can't be 100% sure because everyone I know that has heard the story, not just from me, has said that it was almost certainly because the DM had a crush on my then partner that wasn't requited. I feel like I could have handled the situation better, but I would like to think I'm a better person now and hope the DM managed to work through their problems. So let me say, this was kind of doomed to fail. Unfortunately, there is a type of DM that becomes a DM not because they love to facilitate a fun session for the entire party, but because they want to be, kind of like you pointed out at the beginning, an author and have people in their story. Even as simple as the Minecraft server being intellectual property, that's a dead giveaway that this is the kind of DM that believes they truly are in charge of the world. Now, as the DM, when the session's running, you are kind of God, but when these sessions end, they have to remember that they aren't a deity in real life. This man honestly feels like he can wrath you because you got the girl and he didn't. Now, I know you said you played an edgelord, and at some point, you made your little jabs here and there, and I think the only thing you really could have done is maybe leave the campaign before he actually booted you out of it. There's a story that we had earlier on the channel. It was about the Forgotten Paladin. It was a very similar story in the sense that the player kept holding out hope that the DM wasn't being a dick, even though every single indicator pointed towards it. And in the end, all he got was a lot more wasted time, and he didn't get to leave on his terms. Now, I respect that you didn't have a moment where you exploded on the DM like the person did in that story, so I think you contained yourself as well as you could have. The one thing I will say, though, is if it gets to the point where you guys are starting to talk bad about the DM behind their back, and all the players are in agreement that this isn't the right session, you either have to confront them as a group and be respectful about it, or just kind of cut ties. I hope you guys enjoyed the story. I'm going to go back to my normal upload schedule. I'm learning some editing tricks on the side, so you might be seeing a new video format coming out very soon. Until then, though, make sure to subscribe to the channel so you can catch that video when it comes out. I hope to see you in the next one, and farewell for now. Community shoutout time. Thank you Apocalypso, Deadly Plays, Alfonso, and Bloodsmith Gamer. Thank you for making this all possible with your support.